confirming that we are live. I have 6 p.m. And I'm going to start the meeting as I believe we are live at 6 p.m. Good evening. Welcome to the school committee meeting of March 2nd. Before I start the official meeting, I would like to make note, please, for our community, for anybody who is wishing to join us for public comment. The way that you can do that is to join the meeting through the Zoom link. You can access that through the government site or Channel 18's posting or Nantucket Public Schools posting. What I would recommend for future is if you do know that you would like to comment prior to the meeting, to actually receive an invitation to the meeting so that you can already come on, sign in. You will need to use your name and your email to come on to the Zoom meeting, and you will be listed as a guest. And at public comment, which is always the first item on the agenda, you would raise your hand or put into the chat that you have a comment, and Jen Erickson will give you the ability to have your microphone open for comment. And I do remind everybody it is a public comment, not an opportunity for discussion. So I'm Pauline Proch, Chair of the Nantucket School Committee. Please permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and that you can hear me. Committee members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Zona Butler.
Here.
Thank you. Tim Lepre.
Here.
Thank you. Steve Sudovic.
Affirmative.
Thank you. And just note for the minutes that Jen Iller and Amanda Mack are not able to join us this evening. Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Superintendent Elizabeth Hallett.
Present.
Thank you. Jennifer Erickson, Director of Technology.
Here.
Thank you. Jennifer Raybould, Director of Humanities.
Present.
Thank you. Welcome. I believe that is the folks who will be presenting tonight, but as always, I like to recognize that the leadership team is here fully participating, and I appreciate your being here this evening. I would like to call the meeting to order, and I'd like a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Thank you, Tim. Second, thank you, Steve. Zona, may I have your vote?
Aye.
Thank you, Steve.
Aye.
Thank you, Tim.
Aye.
Thank you. The open meeting of Nantucket School Committee is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12th, 2020. Due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of COVID-19 virus, we have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings. And as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order, which you can find posted with the agenda materials for this meeting, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely, so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. For this meeting, Nantucket School Committee is convening by video conference via Zoom webinar app, as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. At this moment, please, I would like to open up for public comment. If we have public comment, Jen, could you let me know? Jen Erickson.
I don't see anyone on. Oh, Rob Giachetti would like to comment.
Okay. Thank you. Could you unmute him, please? You good? Go ahead, Rob. I'm thinking that you're still muted.
I'm sorry, I don't have the ability. It's not showing up on my screen.
Okay. There must be a host, channel 18. If you are there and can hear, could you please look to see if you can unmute Rob Giachetti, please? I'm not sure who would be the host on this.
I think I'm unmuted now.
Oh, there you are.
Pauline.
Okay.
Great. Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Great. Well, first of all, I want to just take a second to thank all of you for your efforts. And, I think, as I said, every time I've spoken to you, we as parents in the community recognize that you're dealing with a completely unusual situation here. So really appreciate all of the efforts of the committee and the administration for the kids. So I know you all know me as a voice and an advocate for reopening, and I do want to make some comments in that regard tonight. But I've been really pleased to see the progress that we're making, both at the state level with the target of an April full school reopening now out there, and also how that's come down to us with the impact on the buses, and we now have kids that can take the bus to school, which I know is going to be great for a lot of families where transportation is an issue. So it's encouraging to see these signs, and I hope it's a step towards our schools and you all taking action towards getting the kids back to school in person full time. I think, when we see the really low numbers of cases in the community, and then we take into account, the number of actual sick people that are resulting from those cases, I think the trend is really positive, particularly here on the island. So with the kids already together playing sports, they're together in class, right? We've got a lot of them that are already in school together. It seems to be working, right? Knock on wood, we really haven't had case transmission through the schools. And I think we're at the point where we should be looking to open things up and give it a shot and get all of the kids that want to be back in school. So, obviously there are people who will want to opt out of that, and that makes perfect sense for those families and for those teachers where there's health or other concerns that would have them not want to be back in the school. And I think we need to work towards accommodating that, but also not let that impact those that do want to be there. So I would just, ask you, I know there's multiple stakeholders, and I know that the Teachers Association comes into play with making this happen. And, to anyone in the Teachers Association or teachers who are listening, I really would encourage you to look at the needs of the kids and realize that the schools are first and foremost for the kids. And I would ask you to do whatever you can to come up with creative solutions and do everything in your power to get the kids back into school as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Jen, is there anyone else that's on the meeting looking? And if you are interested in speaking, you can put a note in the chat, or you may have the ability to raise your hand. But I think the chat is probably the best if you do want to make a public comment.
There are 2 other attendees. I have not yet seen a request.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Jen. Moving on, I'd like to ask Dr. Hallett to do the superintendent's report, please.
Thank you very much. So I will start with enrollment. As you can see, our enrollment this month is up slightly from 1,638 students in February to 1,650 students in March. And I believe that this jump of 12 students can be attributed to some families who had withdrawn and are now returning from extended trips. The majority of our enrollments are at the elementary school with 9 new enrollments, but we did have 3 withdrawals at the high school, but we are currently at 1,650. So I'm going to move on and then take questions at the end if that's okay, Mr. Proch.
Yes, that's fine.
Great, thank you. The superintendent's evaluation tool is the next on the agenda. I wanted to mention that the superintendent's evaluation tool, which includes the performance rubric for end of year summative evaluation of the superintendent, is available to you. The information that you received earlier this week was the information from the previous superintendent's evaluation tool from 2012, but actually there is a newer superintendent's evaluation tool that came out in August of 2019. And at the very last minute, I sent that to you to review at your leisure. And that is 2019. It's slightly different, but in general, most of the same pieces are involved and are included. The rubric that is part of the evaluation tool addresses 4 major standards for the superintendent evaluation, and those are instructional leadership, management and operations, family and community engagement, and professional culture. As has been done in the past, the school committee will review evidence that I will provide along with the district leadership team on my superintendent goals and these 4 performance standards. And then there will be a public evaluation of the superintendent in late May or early June. I look forward to sharing with you some of my entry plan findings later this spring, as the entry plan process has taken a little bit longer than expected. There's a lot going on in the year this year, but I'm excited to share that with you, and I look forward to assisting in providing evidence on my proficiency as the superintendent. So thank you very much. The MCAS update is where I will continue, and while everything according to the Department of Education is still categorized as tentative, I want to provide a brief update on the MCAS for this year. So with our grades 3 through 8, the testing windows that are open currently, again, this is all tentative, but the subject area test for ELA for grades 3 through 8 is supposed to be from April 5th through May 7th, so coming up fairly soon. For mathematics, it's April 26th through May 28th. And for science, technology, and engineering for grades 5 and 8, it will be April 27th through May 28th. So all of the tests for grades 3 through 8 will be given electronically. And the original expectation is that all MCAS assessments will be completed in school, not at home. The tests themselves will be shortened by about 50%, and the scores themselves will only be used as a diagnostic for school districts. They will not count towards district accountability ratings either. The Department of Education has not provided guidance on this yet, so we are patiently waiting and planning for different possible scenarios on how this can be done logistically. As for high school, the testing window has been tentatively determined as ELA and math between May 3rd and June 4th, and science will be between June 1st and June 11th. For math and ELA, 11th graders will take the legacy MCAS examination, and the 10th graders will take the next generation MCAS examination. This test will be counted for competency determination. So it is not shortened as the grades 3 through 8 tests are. They are full length and will be looking at standards. Alignment with standards. For the science, technology, and engineering, all testing students will take the legacy MCAS exam. And again, this test will count towards students' competency determination. And as I had said, the tests are not shortened for high school. All of the tests will be computer-based unless they are requested as an accommodation for students. So again, everything is still tentative and things may change. We are at this point where we're used to this roller coaster ride of change. It is challenging, however, to do some pre-planning and preparation for it. So we hope that the Department of Education will provide us a final answer as soon as possible. The legislative committee from the Massachusetts Association of School Superintendents has recently released talking points to be presented to the Board of Education and the commissioner around why MCAS and access for ELLs should not be administered, but that districts should be permitted to utilize local formative and benchmark assessments in lieu of state mandated standardized tests, which are summative in nature. I would be very glad. These just arrived in my email box at the end of last week. I would be more than happy to share these talking points with you if you wish to review them. So that is the end of my report. I'm happy to take any questions.
Great, thank you, Beth.
Sure.
Zona?
I don't have any questions, but thank you, Beth. I saw the talking points and on another source, but thank you so much.
Tim?
I think it's a little bit unfair to be moving ahead with this type of testing when it has been such a chaotic year. I think it was on television that 30% of the high school students in Boston had not been attending school. So I think this is strikes me as a bit unfair, and I'd really appreciate it, Beth, if you could send me those talking points. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. Steve?
Yeah, please send the talking points. The high school tests that count toward graduation are not until May?
That is correct. April and from April to May. Again, remember this is for 10th graders and 11th graders.
So I think I read somewhere that for graduation requirement, that has actually been eliminated for seniors this year, the 10th grade math, is that correct?
Yes, I believe that I might have reported to you in an update that the 12th grade competency determination, if students had not passed 2 years ago in their 10th grade year and they hadn't had a chance to take it again last year, that they would waive the MCAS testing for competency determination, and that would only be related to the completion of the courses. So successful completion of courses will provide the diploma for seniors this year. They, again, can still take the MCAS if they so wish, but it is not a necessity as long as they have completed successfully ELA courses and math courses that align with MCAS standards. So,
Well, if I may then, thank you for reminding us that the 12th graders are off the hook. Please take some of the incredulity out of my question.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah, staying with the MCAS for a moment, I was in a conversation where there was actually discussion for the support of having MCAS for students this year. And even though I have to say I don't necessarily say that I'm a proponent of this, the reasoning was that this is an exam that our students have taken since 3rd grade. And so if we are going to get a benchmark of where our students have lost anything over this course of the year, this is probably the best way to measure it, because we have past tests, and of course we can go back and review each student, and they felt that that was the best way of really looking at student success and growth over this year. I think that it's going to be very important that we make sure that we relay to our students through our teachers and through our parents that this is really just to evaluate their growth of this year, and that they're not high-risk tests, because our students have gone through so much already, anxiety-wise, stress-wise, that it really bothers me to think, particularly for this, well, for students who haven't even come into the building, now they're being asked to come into a building and they're taking a high stakes test. So we're not doing a lot to support them in that realm. So I'm happy to hear that it's really more just for information and not graduation purposes. As far as the superintendent's evaluation tool, I think that we should go with the 2019 evaluation tool that you sent out just a few minutes before the meeting, because you all may remember that I attended a mask meeting last November of 2019, maybe that was when we were there. And I sat in on the new superintendent's rubric and tools. So I don't think that it's really wise for us to go back and do what we've been doing in the past. I think we should use the new rubric and the evaluation tool, because that's how your goals were actually formulated. Beth.
Yes, if I may. There are some slight changes. It is not drastic. It is not a drastic change. So everything will look comfortably familiar to you. The biggest change I would say is that there are focus indicators, which are aligned to some of the particulars for this year. And I did add a document that is particular to the 2020-2021 evaluation of educators around the pandemic. So around social emotional learning and support of diverse populations in schools. This seems to be a central theme this year, and very important that it come into play with evaluation. So I did also include that as a guideline for focus indicators. So you will see that also in the email that I recently sent. Great,
thank you. And in the past, Superintendent Kozort has provided us, as you mentioned that you would, your narrative, but he also received feedback from the administrative team. And so unless the committee has any thoughts of changing that, I'd like to continue in that manner. And so just ask you to organize that and have that come through central office. And then typically, Beth, two of us would go through and collate the response, not only from administrative team, but also from the committee. And then we would prepare that. You would get it ahead of time before bringing it to a public meeting. So that's the process. Tim, Zona, or Steve, do you have any thoughts or comments on that? Zona?
I don't have any comments on that, but I agree that we definitely shouldn't go back to 2012 version. I mean, that makes no sense because we'd like to move forward. But I want to ask a question, a general question, where we're talking about MCAS and things like that. What about the college entry exams? I'm sure students have still been taking that. That hasn't been waived. How are they doing? Are you seeing any, fallout from the pandemic in regards to the ACT, SAT, blah, blah, blah?
Yeah, good point.
I believe that the SATs are have been going on, and that our students are taking them. There have been, over the course of this past year, some format changes simply to provide support for students. It's been a unique year, and some of the entry criteria is a little bit different. So for that reason, I would say the SATs are slightly different than they've been in the past. I don't know if Mrs. Vassal or Ms. Sardellis would like to jump in, as they've been much more on the ground with SATs and PSATs, et cetera. So happy to turn it over if they have any comments.
If I may, through the chair, I would add that I would agree with Dr. Hallett that yes, SATs, ACTs are taking place. We are still a test administration site and have conducted those tests at the high school. One thing, though, that we are learning and that the guidance counselors have let the students know is that not all colleges are requesting that for entrance at this time. So quite a few colleges have let that piece of data go for college entrance. So I think that's a good thing for some of our students, that's helpful.
Thank you. Thank you, Mandy. Okay, seeing no other comments on superintendent's report, we'll move on to presentations, discussions, and I'd like to invite Jennifer Raybould, please, to report on the summer programs.
Jen Erickson, can you bring up that slideshow?
I apologize. Once again, I misunderstood, so I will get it as quickly as I can.
Okay, thanks, Jen. It's nice to have you, Jennifer, present 2 meetings in a row. Nice to see you again.
Okay, so I just want to preface this by saying that this is very much still in the planning stages, and I am still learning because this is my first year and I haven't gone through a summer program before. So I just wanted to let you know that a lot of this is tentative at this point. We could go to the next slide. So there are 3 different kinds of summer programs that we run in the Nantucket Public Schools. The extended school year for special education, and that program is really to provide a continuation of IEP services as a result of assessment and anticipated regression. Title I, which is extra support for struggling students to help them reach high academic standards. And then Title III, which is our EL enrichment, our English language learner enrichment, to provide opportunities for students to engage in academic discourse in authentic contexts in English, obviously. And the extended school year program is run by Deb Gately, our special services director, and the Title III program is run by Kelly Cooney. So the goals of the summer program at NPS are a little bit different this year. Last year, it was really to maintain progress that students had made. This year, we are really, particularly for Title I and Title III, the ESY, that is their legal goal that they are required to help students maintain progress. But this year, for Title I and III, we really are feeling the need to not just maintain, but to accelerate progress. Why? Well, according to the NWEA, which is the nonprofit organization that produces the MAP assessment, nationally, compared to the fall before, the fall of 2019, student achievement was similar in reading on average, but 5 to 10 percentile points lower in math. And in addition, there were small declines in reading for some groups of students, especially Hispanic and Black students in the upper elementary grades. And one of the really important things to remember, according to NWEA, is that the lack of data on our most vulnerable students warrants caution. The fact is that a lot of our most vulnerable students nationwide were not present to take the assessments last fall. And that was the case in Nantucket Public Schools as well. We had a number of students who we are most concerned about who were not present in school enough days to even complete the exam. In Nantucket, our student achievement means or average were higher than the national average, which we were very pleased to see. However, the range of student scores was significant across all grades. In other words, our students who were already doing well continue to do well, but our students who were already struggling struggled even more. So we had really significant range in the scores. So the very high students were able to bring the average up, but our students who were really struggling were definitely struggling more than normal. Next slide. So the tentative logistics is 4 days a week for 5 weeks, which is what we've done in the past, 8 to 12 for students, and 1 hour paid planning and PLC time for teachers. We would like to have across the board for all 3 programs, a few days of planning and professional development before students start. And we are really, really, really hoping and planning for in-person instruction. We feel like this is so important, especially for our students who have been struggling with remote learning this year. And we are attempting to use outdoor classrooms as much as possible. And we are still really in the investigatory stage of this, looking at uses of tents and other spaces outside, which will make, we think, a lot of teachers and families feel more comfortable with sending their kids in person. So the criteria, this is still under construction. We have slightly different criteria in some cases because we've used different assessments this year. For the extended school year, students are recommended for extended school year when the IEP team for each student has determined that the student is likely to lose critical skills during the summer when services are not delivered. ESY extended school year is documented as a separate service on the IEP service delivery grid. For Title III, it's based on access scores and also teacher recommendations as well, students who need the most support. For Title I, there are a number of different criteria that we look at. Classroom teacher recommendation is very important. We'll be looking at the MAP scores in reading and math. We'll be looking at the Fountas Panel instructional level. This is a literacy assessment. We'll look at any history of regression if students have typically regressed during the summer months, and also a history of reading and or math interventions. If students have continued getting reading or math interventions to stay on grade level, we will be looking at that as a good indicator that they'll need some extra summer support. Last year's numbers, Title I and extended school year were 198 students from the elementary school and the intermediate school, and 50 students from the middle and high school. Title III, the EL program, had 71 students. This year's numbers, based on our assessments that we've seen so far, we are projecting that they may potentially double. And we're hoping to use some of the ESSER grant money to help support additional buses and teachers and TAs to make that happen. So our progress thus far, like I said, we are very much in the initial stages. I've met with other directors in the past, ESY, Title I and Title III summer program coordinators. And we had a creative brainstorming meeting with a lot of stakeholders, teachers who have taught in the program before, in the ESY program and the Title III and the Title I programs, and teachers who may not have been involved before, but were interested and felt really strongly about really looking at taking a new look at our program. We really wanted to kind of reimagine summer programming for our students as not as much a remediation program as more of an acceleration program. We did a bit of review of the research on successful summer school programs, and we worked to develop a vision for a summer school program full of opportunities for authentic learning, joyous literacy experiences, social emotional support, and rich knowledge development through hands-on activities, field trips, and investigations. And then we identified some next steps to make this a reality. This was just an example of part of the meeting. We had a jam board where after we did our research and presented to each other, we just put up some of our wishes for what we would like a summer program to look like. And then the next step was we used that information and our discussion, we developed a vision for the summer program. The NPS summer program seeks to develop a K-12 enrichment and acceleration program that is equitable and accessible for all students, meeting basic needs, food, transportation, social emotional supports, and prioritizing students with the highest needs, constructed around a common theme with differentiation based on grade level and need, through community building within NPS and on Nantucket, established on inclusivity and engagement and fun, and enacted through authentic learning experiences with hands-on activities. So we really want it to look like something that's a little bit different than we've had in the past. Definitely reaching those students who traditionally have needed that extra support, but students have lost a lot, not just in skill, but in background knowledge this year. And so we really want to provide that and also the social emotional support that is so important this year. So this is just an example of some of the brainstorming. The high school program will look a little bit different. Traditionally, it's just been a credit recovery program with a few students in the Title III EL program. And the credit recovery option still needs to be there for students who have not passed essential courses in high school. However, we did some interesting brainstorming, and teachers came up with some interesting ideas, maybe to provide some additional acceleration options for high school students, maybe AP acceleration, maybe for students who want to take geometry in ninth grade to do an algebra boost, maybe some SAT prep, maybe financial literacy, which is now a requirement to graduate. So maybe offering some of those kinds of courses in the summer. So nothing is set in stone. We are still exploring different options, and you'll see on the next page, one of our next steps is to survey staff to see which staff would be interested in being part of this program, parents to see which parents are interested in having their students be a part, and then high school students about their interests or needs. Would they attend a program if we had certain elements in it that we haven't had before? And then these are some of our other next steps, really defining what our model of teaching and learning is going to be this summer, hiring facilitators, reaching out to community partners, confirming the dates and times, determining the budget, advertising and hiring teachers, which can be difficult on Nantucket, finding out what rooms and buildings will be available, researching outdoor spaces, defining more clearly the eligibility criteria, marketing the program, designing the teacher professional development and planning, building the curriculum. And one of the things that has come up in the past is the issue of having lunches available for students. And so Martin and I have talked about, what are the different possibilities with that? Do we have funding for that? Could we get some sponsors for providing lunches for students? So that's where we are. And I know Kelly Cooney is here, our EL director, and Deb Gately, our special services director. And obviously they're very involved in the summer programs as well. And their programs look a little bit different than the Title I, which is primarily my responsibility. So I'm sure that they would be willing to speak as well.
Thank you, Jennifer. I'll put that out to Kelly and to Deborah if they wanted to make any comments. Not hearing that. Okay. All right. Super. Zona, I'd like to go to you first. I can't hear you, Zona. It looks like you are muted, but.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yes. There you go. Yeah.
I just wanted to say thank Jen for the presentation. That was pretty thorough, and I'm sure you'll do a fine job when the summer rolls around. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Zona. Tim.
I think this is a great idea. I think it should be offered to everybody. And I think maybe there are a number of kids that don't want to necessarily move on a grade next year. Maybe we should offer that an opportunity to stay back. I think we have to try and make up for what we lost through the pandemic. And I think this is very creative. I just would like to see it expanded to everybody on 2 feet.
Thanks, Tim.
I don't think it's easy, but.
Yeah, thank you. Steve, I'll go to you next.
Yeah, I'm definitely on the same page as Tim. I mean, I get the sense, Jen, that you're looking to expand this beyond those who would typically meet the criteria. And I, as much as it sounds corporate, I like the sound of marketing this so that parents could, if the phrase is correct, volunteer their kids to come in for extra learning, to try to pick up on anything they can, any additional remediation that we can do. I mean, I'm with Tim. I think we should have 1,600 kids in there. I know they won't, but I applaud attempting to get everyone in that we possibly can.
Thanks, Steve. Thank you. Yes, I would echo what's been said. I think all of our students could benefit from this. And I'm wondering, as I say this, I'm also going to say that I realize when you work with volunteers, that's a whole job in of itself of managing volunteers. But I wonder if this is the year that we do some outreach to our community, because I am sure there are people who are well qualified, who either are retired or are here for the summer, that we could invite to, while the school is going to be open, we know we're going to expect more children. Maybe we could bring in some tutors, some community members that are willing to tutor students and do it in the school alongside the structured program. It would give them an environment where they could meet with the students publicly. And I think there's going to be some parents whose children wouldn't necessarily qualify under the guidelines that you put, but could use some math support or English language arts support, or any, the financial piece, when you mentioned that and having that as a requirement for graduation, there's a lot of people who are very smart in managing money on this island. And I would be surprised if we couldn't pull some of those folks in to work with our students. So I realized that with that comes more work and organization and Corey's and all of that. But I just think it might be, this is the year maybe to do it so we could cast a wider net. But I will leave that for you all to think about. In your first slide, it worried me. And so I'm going to ask you about the students that you mentioned were not in school long enough to even have the assessments. Can you just provide like a little background? What does that typical student look like? Because I'm immediately thinking, well, where did they go? Did they leave Ireland, or did they, how did we lose them? So do you mind, Jennifer, just touching
Sure.
a little bit?
It was difficult in some instances to administer it because we had students who were only in school 2 days a week in some cases. And so in some cases, we tried to administer it remotely on our remote days, on students' remote days. It was, which is one of the reasons why thinking about administering the MCAS in a hybrid situation just really worries me, because it's very, very difficult. And, some of the students who have, we've had a continued issue, and this has not been just in Nantucket or Massachusetts, but across the country, with attendance. Even students who may show up in the beginning of class may not be there for the whole class. And there's just a lot of distractions. So we have certain windows that we have to administer. We expanded it to about a month in the fall. But at that point, we have to, in order to analyze the data, we have to close the window. And there were students who had not been in attendance for a number of days, enough to complete the assessment. And so we didn't have full data for them. That's something that NWA discovered nationally, is that, when they looked at the data of who was taking the assessments, our students who typically are more marginalized students, our poorer students, were not taking the assessments in as great numbers as they were in the past, because those are the students who have been hardest hit by the pandemic. Some of them are caring for siblings, some of them are working. So it was difficult this year to get everyone on board and assessed. We have other assessments that we use that are shorter assessments and that are used by classroom teachers. So in many cases, we're going to be using that additional data. And we will be administering the map again in March, this month, actually. So we hope that we can get some updated data on that. And then students who are traditionally, who have been receiving reading and math interventions this year based on the data that we have on them, they will be given an additional shorter assessment in June, a screening within the map. So we hope to have additional data as the year goes on.
Thank you. Thank you for explaining that. And thank you for a very thorough presentation. I wish you the best with that. Thank you. Beth, would you like to present on the district improvement plan, the mid-year update?
Yes, I would be happy to. I think Jen Erickson is going to present for us. I won't go into really really detailed explanation. You have had this document for several days, but I do want to kind of explain where we have been and where we are going to go. So in one of the things that we did as part of our mid-year reflection is we met and conducted this kind of audit of our 2-year action plan of our 3-year district improvement plan. So I wanted to kind of give you some areas of progress and explain some of our celebrations and also some of the things that we know we're going to need to work on. Each of our strategic initiatives that we have set to work on, we have been pretty diligent in moving forward. There is a lot to celebrate. We have really kind of moved forward in all of our strategic objectives. And I'd like to highlight a couple of areas, particularly in our priority areas, which are the bold areas where our district leadership team has made some significant progress. So to start out, you'll see that in our first strategic objective, which is improving student learning and achievement, in our initiative number 1, which is about using district-wide data protocols. One of our real areas of concentration has been MAP, and it has actually been quite successful this year. A couple of hiccups here and there, which is normal when presenting and when putting together a new initiative district-wide, which can be challenging. But it has been successful, and I've heard individual teachers, administrators as well, saying that it has really helped, and it has offered a window into a different way of looking at student growth and student achievement. It is not summative like our MCAS is, and it really does focus on skills, and that's important. It helps us to see how students are doing against themselves. We see the growth that they have made for themselves. So that's a real success, I would say. It's still in process simply because we haven't done our final administration yet, but we do feel that we will be able to put this in as complete as soon as we can. So in moving on, Jen, if you can just scroll up a little bit, that'd be great. In our second initiative, you'll see that supporting development of blended learning, that's been a really important thing that we've been working on all year. It's been challenging. Hybrid learning, simultaneous learning is something that no one really knew about prior, and we have done everything we can to support our teachers and our educators and learn ourselves. It is a learning process that is not ending. We are continuing to get better at it. Our hope is that we will be able to return to a more traditional style of instruction. However, this is a great opportunity to incorporate now this blended learning instructional model if we needed to at any time. Obviously, this also brings in Schoology, our learning management system, and there has been support with Schoology as well. So we are still in process with this, which we felt was important to highlight. In 1.3, which is our multi-tiered system of support, we are creating or refining our school-based student support teams. We've had some professional development recently with Claudia Rinaldi, who is really quite an MTSS guru, and she has given us a self-assessment tool that we've been doing, and it's also part of our work with the Special Services Department and Deb Gately around disproportionality and making sure that students, diverse students, are adequately and equitably provided the same opportunities. So this has been important, and I think it is a good journey that we're headed on. It's in process. It will take us more time. This is one of those initiatives that most likely will continue into next year. So we'll probably see that in our next year's plan. Jen, if you would scroll down, that'd be great. In number 1.4, we have leveraging technology, which is about Schoology and certainly and tech apps. And we have done an incredible amount of work with technology and getting folks up and running and offering those practices with all of our students. So we have obviously Schoology, other apps. A lot of the work that we've done this year has been, a lot of instruction on the fly because of the need and because of how we have the model that we've had to use. But there has definitely been progress. We still have more to go, and we'll keep going with that throughout the year and continuing. You'll notice that on the far right column, there are status updates there, and in the yellow we have in process, in red we have planned, we have some that are orange, which are planned and in process, meaning we've just started, we're in the initial stages, and then green is complete. So you'll see that some of them we've actually been able to complete. Jen, if you don't mind moving down, I'll bring us to the second, I'm going to actually bring us to the second initiative, excuse me, the objective. Thank you. Which is, a little bit, go back a little bit. This is equity and access. So this is increasing support, equity and access. Hold on. Sorry, Jen. Go back. You're going to get to strategic initiative or strategic objective 2. Go down. Thank you. Stop. Yes. Right there, right there. So we are, this is an area that is about differentiation. It is about making sure that all of our students have that access to the curriculum, no matter what, whether they are our special needs students, our English learners, students who are at higher levels, but we want to make sure that they are succeeding as well. So our first one, which is about differentiation and universal design for learning, we have started this, but because it aligns very necessarily with blended learning, but we know that we need more, and we need to investigate more, and hopefully this could be an area of real focus for next year. We know that we can continue to work on it and perhaps do some professional development opportunities over the summer for teachers, and perhaps this will be something that we can focus on also in our summer programs. But it's definitely an area that can really support the district in moving forward. And I think because students are so in such different places, this will be a necessity in learning how to really differentiate within a class and how to make sure that all of your students have that access to the lessons, to the units in different ways. So that's definitely an area that we will bring into next year. In 2.2, this is looking at instructional programs for SEL. We know that we really need to focus on social and emotional learning. It is an important part of what has happened over the course of the year. We have got to focus on supporting our students and giving them the emotional support, the social opportunities that they've really missed out on not having in-person learning. And so this is really an area of focus. We have been able to implement the DESA screener, and that has been successful at our elementary and intermediate schools. Still working on it at the middle school. It's more challenging for middle and high school, where teachers don't see the students every day, all day. They see them for a part of the day. So it's harder to do this screener, which is much more objective. But we are working on that and other opportunities for screening to make sure that we're providing that support. Okay, Jen, you can keep going. Thanks. That's good right there. Tiered system of support for social and emotional well-being. This is another piece to the SEL programming, making sure that we can provide support to our school counselors, who we would hope would be able to offer this during the school day. Still in progress, still in process. We know that we need to bolster this even more. And an interesting fact, slightly unrelated to the district improvement plan, but something that's important, is that the ESSER 2 federal funding that has come through, there is a requirement that some of that funding will go towards social and emotional learning. So that's an interesting piece I thought I would put in there right now. It just came to my mind. Jen, go ahead and you can go down. Thank you. Whoop, that's fine. So you'll just notice, you'll see more of these. Here's one right here, 2.6, clear expectations for student conduct. This has been very important, especially with COVID-19. I would say that we are in good shape here. Our principals, counselors, nurses, everyone has, and our athletic director who has had an amazing successful initiation to the programming, to the sports and athletic programs that are available. We've done remarkably well with following protocols, with making sure that our families understand what's going on, making sure that students are following, staff are following our safety and health protocols. And so I think we're in good shape. Everything will change, obviously, as we move forward, but I'm satisfied to know that people are in a good place with this. Go ahead, Jen. We'll move on to strategic objective number 3, which is coming up right there. Thank you. This is securing and maximizing resources. A lot of this is looking at budget. We were very successful in our budget planning and process this year. And I thank all of you who participated with the ad hoc and our leadership team that was very careful. And Martin, of course, who assisted throughout. We have a recruiting fair that you'll see planned in the pink there. We are hoping to do virtual recruiting fairs. They're coming up in March. So we do have positions to fill, and we hope to be able to use these recruiting fairs to find the right people to join our district. Go ahead, Jen, you can move down. Some of this also is facilities. So we are looking at our capital improvement plan. We're looking at our our campus-wide master plan. And a lot of this is included in this strategic objective. Finally, we do have technology, which is an important part. And Jen has been paying careful attention to this as well. You'll notice the last bold in 3.5, which is reviewing and updating the district technology plan, adding more offerings to inform parents and how they can manage in the digital challenges. This has been really important. There have been some great support nights with Schoology, but also with other tech tools and opportunities that parents have been able to attend. We've seen some great some great attendance at some of those evenings. So I feel very happy, and I think it's something that we can celebrate. We've done a lot of work with our parents. Still more to come, and still more that can be done. But in the meantime, it's been good. Go ahead, Jen, you can keep going. We'll go to number 4. Thank you. Oh, go back a little bit. This one is about collaboration and communication and strengthening, championing a culture of inclusion, collaboration, and communication. So we want to continue to strengthen our partnerships with our parents and families in providing opportunities for engagement and collaboration. It's been challenging because a lot of what we are used to are more traditional ways of incorporating parents into our into the fold is to have in-person opportunities like our parent nights, our literacy nights, our academic nights. It's been a little bit more challenging with virtual, but we have had some great successes. And I'm glad. I hope that communication has been improved. People have certainly shared that they have been pleased with the way communication has come through. It seems like there's so much to report so quickly. And so a lot of it comes fast and furious, but certainly we want to make sure that parents feel that they are partners in their child's education. So that's important. Jen, you can scroll down a little bit more. Thank you. We want to improve our communication with between administration and staff. It's been a challenging year. We have all felt it. We have all felt that communication has been so important. And we know that there are areas here where we can improve more. And so we hope that in the future months that are still in this year, that we can find some things to celebrate the success that we have had, and to remind ourselves and our staff across the district that we have done an incredible job in an absolutely unprecedented time. And it's so important that we continue to keep open, transparent communication and celebration and positivity too. So I know there's still work to do with this, but I hope that people are feeling that they can celebrate some of that. And that's pretty much where we're at with the district improvement plan. It was a nice time for us to go through and feel that we have been been really working hard on this. And this is also, I believe, some important evidence to you, school committee members, as you are also looking at the superintendent's evaluation. We have, I consider myself part of the district leadership team and as an equal member, and there has been a lot of work done on this document and also in really making the rubber hit the road. It's an ambitious plan for 1 year, and so there are still things that we know we will need to carry over into next year, but we are pleased with some of the progress that we've made. And I am so thankful to this leadership team for really being there in the trenches and doing so much of this. And like I said, there's still work to do, but I think we can collectively celebrate that there has been some great progress. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Beth. Zona, I'd like to go to you first. I can't see you, Zona, but you might be muted.
You hear me now?
Yep, I can hear you.
Sorry, it's weird. I have no comments. Thank you, Beth. I read through it and I think it looks great. I like the changes, the updates. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Tim.
I would just echo Zona. I think seeing the plan, and I appreciate the updates and how we're moving ahead. Thank you.
Steve.
Ditto.
Okay, yes, short and sweet. Thank you, everybody. Yes, it's great. This is concise. It's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of work here, and having been part of different plans over my many years, and actually with some of the school, I smile at persons responsible. I like the way you've been creative with how you've actually changed people up, because it's the leadership team doing most of all of this. Sometimes they're named by their title, and then it's sometimes a leadership team, and sometimes it's just principals and school councils. But this is a lot of work for our staff, so we recognize that. But I think it's important work, and I look forward to the continued progress. So thank you, everyone. Okay, moving on to committees, discussion and votes to be taken. And on the agenda, we have the first item for a vote, and I'd like to have a motion, please, to accept the school committee goals.
Move approval.
Thank you, Tim. May I have a second? Thank you.
Yeah. Question, if I may?
Yes, you may, Steve.
You mean with the modifications?
With the modifications as yes, as is. Thank
Okay.
you.
Good, thank you.
There was a small grammatical typo thing that I sent an email to Logan earlier today. Did you see it, Pauline? It's nothing major. The goals are numbered, and the first one is number 1 and not 1 with an O-N-E. I just thought we'd be consistent. That's all.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you. Okay, Steve, may I have your vote?
Yes.
Thank you. Tim?
Aye.
Thank you. Zona?
Aye.
Thank you. And Pauline, aye. May I have approval, please, for the school calendar of 21 to 22, please?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Zona. Tim, may I have your vote?
Move approval.
Thank you, Steve.
Yes.
Thank you, Zona.
Aye.
Thanks, Pauline. Aye. Meeting minutes. May I have a motion to accept the minutes, please, of February 18th?
Move approval.
Thank you, Tim.
Typo.
Second.
Zona, second. Okay. Steve, may I have your vote?
Aye.
Thank you, Zona.
Just a typo. Page
Okay.
1 of 5, the bottom of the page, the calendar year doesn't match the calendar year.
Okay,
Years.
you're making a change on. Okay. So we can accept the minutes with the change. Beth, you've got that.
Aye.
Thank you. Tim,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye, as amended.
thank you, and Pauline, aye. Motion to accept the transfers and invoices, please.
So moved.
Thank you, Steve. Second, Zona. Tim, may I have your vote?
Move approval.
Thank you, Steve.
Aye.
Thank you, Zona.
Aye.
Thank you, Pauline, aye. Thank you, everybody. Okay, subcommittee work. Anybody have any reports on their committees that have met? Seeing none for this week, okay. And as I said, Amanda Mack wasn't able to join us tonight, so we don't have a student council comment. On the horizon, or for our agenda for March 18th. And I just want to check the time of that meeting. Is that 6 o'clock or is that 6:30? That's a Thursday. And those Thursdays have typically been 6:30. Beth, could you confirm that, please?
Yes, I believe that it is 6:30.
Okay. To make sure that we make that loud and clear. I'm looking forward to the times when we can get back to our Tuesday night meetings. Okay, so we have tentatively for the Friends of the Public School, Student Support Services update, School Committee self-evaluation. You all received from Logan O'Connor the evaluation. If you would please have that returned to Logan. I would say if you could do that by the end of this week, that will give her time to gather and collate and then have it ready to send out prior to that meeting. And then we have the district report card and COVID vaccine updates. Well, that's encouraging that that's on there. Okay, great. Any comments or anybody wants?
A question, Madam Chair.
Yes, Steve.
What, if anything, are we doing with or about the goals status document?
School committee goals. I think that you and I should work on that piece and make sure that the language is consistent. And then I think what we should do is bring it to the school committee to review, and then we can bring it back to a meeting for discussion and update. I think at this moment, everybody has seen the goals. We need to finish the status part of it, and then I think it would be good to bring it back to a meeting so we can have discussion.
Yeah, I was just wondering if anyone had looked at it sufficiently yet to agree that the format works, so that if you and I keep working on it, this is a format that's acceptable to everyone.
Yeah.
Format's not problematic, but maybe I think we need a workshop to update statuses and have, real conversation about it. That's just my thought.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you, Zona. Tim?
I don't have an opinion.
Nothing to add?
No.
Okay, so if you're okay with the outline of it, then Steve and I can continue to work on that. And then maybe we could look in April to do a workshop on that prior to bringing it back. If everyone's in agreement for that.
Works for me.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, everybody. All right. Well, if there's nothing else for discussion, I'd like to have a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Thank you, Steve. Second by Tim. Zona, may I have your vote?
Aye.
Thank you, Tim.
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
Thank you, Pauline. Aye. Thank you, everybody, for joining in this evening, and we'll see you back at 6:30 on the 18th. Bye.
Thank you all.
Bye.